Good day and welcome to a new video. Hello and welcome to my illustrational video that I'm making, hybrid part 3 of the Bunnymeleon, and you are watching me live. So today I'm joined by Dystoth.
Yeah, that's correct. Dystoth.
Dystoth. Who is a buddy of mine
Yeah.
on DeviantArt. Can you talk about yourself for a minute?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm kind of just I do a little bit of freelance illustration. I've done digital art since I was about 15 on and off. I'm 21 now, so gives you an idea of how long I've been doing it. Um, I am currently taking a diploma in concept art and illustration from CG Spectrum College of Art and Animation online, which is going pretty well for me. And I'm hoping to move into a professional part of the field soon.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, very inspiring. Yeah, and Daniel, I'm your host of this stream. As you can see, at the moment I'm got pre-recorded of a digital illustration that I'm doing. So at the moment I'm doing a lot of hybrids, because I really love animals. So that's what I kind of render, all those animals and things. Do you have any struggles rendering different materials and things, Dystoth?
It's interesting. Is actually the last assignment I had to do for my schooling was actually rendering materials, and um, I find anything when rendering any material, it kind of comes down to having good reference. If you have good reference, you can usually, you can draw from what you can see, right? So you can usually draw pretty much any any material as long as you have the right resources to do so. But I would say I tend to, I don't know, I tend to struggle with materials that are more refined materials. Something that's like let's say tree bark or something like that. I find tends to be a little bit easier. It's a very long process, but it's a organic material and is a little bit more fluid than say I don't know, like carbon fiber or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so you struggle more with the wood than like an organic material?
I struggle more with the refined materials.
Okay. So that's like your copper, your um
Yeah, anything that's been like manufactured by people, I
mm,
guess.
mm.
I tend to struggle more to get an accurate depiction of it.
It's very interesting. I suppose it's like in nature you see it every day. With the more manufactured stuff you don't, I don't know if you see it every day, but you do see it often.
Yeah, yeah. And some things are easier. Like you take a solid steel ball, it pretty much just looks like a normal. Like it just looks like pretty much what your standard rendering of a sphere would be. So, but there is more to it, and getting all the little details that go with those things, like pitting and bubbles that are made in the refining process and stuff, can be quite a challenge for me at times. But like I said, if you have the right reference for anything you're doing,
Mm, mm.
you should be able to manage. So.
Yeah, it's like in this painting I did use reference. You'll see it come up um, later on in the video, but at some points I did stop using reference. Like I didn't have the reference up. It might have just been, you know, I wasn't bothered to bring the actual reference up. But how often do you use reference? Do you stop at any point looking at reference?
Yeah, you like on pretty much in any piece I ever do, I use reference. Maybe not for the initial stages. Uh, when if I'm trying to design something specific, like I know, for example, I'm going to do like a place that's all icy and snowy, then I'll look up reference when I'm starting. But often, when I'm designing initially, I don't have it, and then once I know what I'm doing, I'll go out and get reference for it specifically what I'm doing. So I would say in everything I paint, I use reference.
Hmm. Yeah, they always need something to go off on. Um, I find.
I had a teacher that. Oh, go.
No, you go.
um, I had a teacher once say, like, make a good point that no matter how well you can remember something, you're not going to be able to remember it. You're not going to be able to remember it as well as if you're just looking directly at it. You're never going to get the subtleties that were there unless you have like a photographic memory. So
Yeah, that's the thing.
I always thought that was a good point.
It's a great point. And so I'm doing something at the moment. There's this book, Cognitive Drawing. It's where you draw something and then you draw it from memory. And the whole idea of that is the back and forth between drawing it without reference and with reference. You learn a bit more than just drawing it from reference.
Interesting. And how have you found the exercises in the book? Have you found them helpful, or?
Yeah, like so I'm doing it with my own drawings, but he had it last year and he had some testers. So they're the testers. So he had to break down. They had broken down every individual part of the human body. So we had to do it. We had to do it for the eye, the nose, and the lips, and then we had to draw the whole face doing that technique.
Okay.
Yeah, I did find it very useful because it was I learnt more as I went along. You know, I'm not that great at drawing humans, but I did find that that helped me improve quite dramatically.
That's interesting. And do you think it was maybe just the fact that you were going out of your way to draw humans, kind of thing, getting that practice in?
It was like the technique was something good, but yeah, it was that whole I was going out and I was doing this every day kind of thing.
Right. For sure. Yeah, it's definitely repetition and dedication, consistency that makes you learn any skill. Mastery.
Yeah, yep. And the thing is that like you'll never stop learning in this field.
No.
No, there's always like something new to learn.
Definitely, and I've seen that there's a few industries I've noticed like specifically that have that, and some being things like, for example, computer science rather than art is an area where it just seems like there's never ending knowledge. They say there's not a single person in the world that knows how to build a computer from a modern computer from start to finish, because there's just too much information that goes into it.
Yeah. Yeah, we always, even the people that build computers, they already have the parts made to put them in the computer.
Hmm.
So yeah, like,
Yeah, and for one individual to know how to make each one of those parts and then still be able to put them all together and be able to make the software required for it to run, they say that there's nobody who can do that
hmm,
because there's just too much. It's too much to learn, and there's just uh, not nearly enough time in life,
hmm. It's
which is interesting.
hmm.
Um,
It's like there's a whole range of big fields in the arts. You've got more CG and 3D than there ever was.
yeah,
So now there's a lot more artists learning all this 3D knowledge and CG, and they can't spend all their time on 2D anymore.
yeah. Which, yeah, that's a good question, and it's a question I often come to wonder is should one is one dedicating all your time into one thing or dedicating your time into multiple things and then allowing the knowledge of all those multiple things to combine, like which of those two routes is the better option? If
Yeah, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think if you go too broad, you won't be good at like any one thing, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. They both sides have their good and bad things. Um, where if you know more skills, there's possible more jobs out there that you could apply for. But necessarily you might not be able to get them because you're not good enough in that field when you're applying. So I feel that spending all your time on learning the fundamentals of one skill, so the fundamentals of color, light, and texture of either whatever way you want to go. If you want to be more computer based or more 2D kind of graphics based, you want to learn all the fundamentals of that. So feel like learning skills like per se how to render glass that has water in it is less important than learning how to draw shapes and spheres and things like that.
Right. So do you think you can get too narrow then? Too narrow in what you're learning?
Yeah,
To say,
too narrow.
go ahead.
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah, maybe I'll elaborate.
Hmm.
Okay. Which you may have just given an example of that, where if you were to just focus on drawing glasses with water, you may get very good at drawing glasses with water, but you're so narrow that you don't have the skills to do anything other than that one thing.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, there is definitely a point out there where you're way too narrow. But you cannot learn everything. You've got to focus on what you want to learn.
That's a very good point, and I think I've actually struggled with that at times. I was kind of, when people ask me what I want to do when I grow up, it's more like I had too many things I wanted to do rather than not knowing, and I've struggled, and it's cost me time trying to be more than one, trying to be too many things at one time, and not just dedicating myself has cost me a lot of valuable time. And I think really working to figure out what you really do want to learn, and just making sure it's not too much, but not necessarily too narrow or too little, is a balanced thing that one should really figure out in their life.
Yeah. If that's the thing, is that you've got to, if you know what you're focused on, you can really advance further.
I would agree, yeah. Yeah, I mean, to master anything, yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like if you're walking somewhere, and you're going somewhere, but you don't know where that is, then you're most likely never going to get there because you're probably not going the right direction. And if you don't have a clear direction, then you won't know when you're there or how to get there.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you apply that to learning a skill, trying to if you don't have a clear direction of what you're aiming to do, then you can't obtain it. It's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy, but I guess the point is you can't obtain what you don't know what you're trying to obtain, right? You wouldn't know when you had done it. If you just started doing things and just waiting till you got there, you wouldn't even know if you had gotten there.
Yeah, valid point. So when you're doing a painting and you've spent, many hours on it, when do you know it's finished?
That's a tough question. I've heard it asked many times to many artists before, and to be honest, I think it's a feeling. There's kind of this feeling of, I've accomplished what I set out to accomplish. And until you have that feeling, I don't think you're really done. And that goes back to, again, having a clear understanding of what you are trying to accomplish is good. But I found, for me, in all the paintings I've ever completed, it was really a feeling of, this is what I want it to be. And you'll know it when you get there. I know when I first started off in art, I found I was never until I got to a skill level, I was never achieving what I really wanted to achieve. So I never really felt like I finished something. But once I got a higher skill level, I'd achieved what I'd set out to do, and I knew I was finished the piece.
I'm gonna check this. Hello, light. Yeah, it should be coming through. Yeah, it's a hard thing to know. Like, for me, I just keep going until I know it's rendered right or it looks right. And this goes back a couple years ago. I had a tutor at one of my School of Designs that I went to, and I would basically, they would teach me drawing. Basically, we'll sit there and they'll set up a scene like with some capsicums, or there was a Christmas one as well, and we had to sit there and draw for like half an hour, and I would do these drawings, sit there and do some drawings, and then we'll get into doing more refined drawings, and then eventually go into colour. And the point was, when I got into the colour, you know, you start getting tired of drawing the same thing for quite a while.
For sure.
Like a week or two, you know, colouring this in.
Right.
And I would always end up going to show her my picture, her sending me back to put some more of this colour in, and then me and repeating the process, and that whole, you know, that went on and on until I eventually, you know, hit the eureka, it's done point.
And what was that eureka done point like for you?
It, you know,
Was it a feeling, or was it a...
It's both the feeling and, you know, the look of the art, the look of the piece.
Right. Right. You just... It had reached a point in which you had accurately depicted what you were trying to depict.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, pretty much. It just reaches a point. And not all pieces end up going that far. Yeah, and that brings me to another topic of you know, quantity over quality, and re-reviewing my work from doing some of these streams. I've re-looked at this one. See, this one, this stream here would actually would be pushed further than I would have any of the other streams that I have before. And that comes down to time, because, you know, I can't. I was wanting to do more than do less but better quality.
Right.
And
so how are you relating that to quantity over quality, or quality over quantity?
So so now that I've got a big quantity of quality work, I can now push it back a little bit, and rather than, you know, producing a piece of work a week or every couple of days or something like that, I can now come back and produce a piece a month because of the quantity that I have.
Right.
If you go... How about you? What do you feel about quantity over quality?
Well, I kind of have the opinion that, and I might be sort of the same opinion that you just stated, is that you almost need both. In the learning process, I think it's good to do quantity, even if it's not quality at times, because I find that I once had a teacher told me to fail faster. And if you can make your mistakes at a quicker rate, you can learn from them quicker too. So if you do a high quantity, you'll see the different areas of working with what you're creating. You can find how the mistakes quicker than if you did one really long piece and you never noticed various things during that piece. At the same time, creating that quality and going further with it is another area that needs to be worked on too. And I would definitely say when it comes to your final display of what you've created out through time being a portfolio, you definitely want quality over quantity. But in the learning process, I think you need both.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you can have one piece with 1,000 views, or you can have 10 pieces with only 1,000 views. But it's producing it and producing it well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's kind of like goes to what's very popular is speed painting or spit paints, where you just do them very, very quickly with an objective of doing them with, say, 30 minutes, for example. But in the end, I'd rather look at a piece of art that somebody took way longer on and at a very high quality than something that was maybe good, but it just didn't take them long, In the end, I still want to look at the best artwork I can. If I was hanging a piece on my wall, for example.
So what artists inspire you?
That's a good question. There's I'm actually somebody who doesn't really follow artists too much. I don't actually I've never there's a few artists I've followed, but not to a great extent. But some of them include this one's a more obscure one, but I love his artwork. His name's Peter Ortiz. You can find him on DeviantArt under Peter-Ortiz. And he has it's almost more his content that interests me. He also has a very realistic style in some of his pieces. Yes. And I quite enjoy it a lot. But the contents really interest me. Other artists that are more notable would be Jonas Dero, James Payek, I don't know, WLOP. I'm not sure how that one's pronounced, but they're very popular. I find it's almost their styles that I find, not necessarily what they paint all the time. But I should say with some people like James Payek, though, his stuff's very, very perfect looking, and I find it loses what art is kind of meant to be. It just becomes designs rather than art. Which I can see in a lot of artists. It just looks cool, It doesn't. It's not inspiring or anything, but it just looks cool, which is an interesting thing to me.
Yeah, that's another thing. You could draw something like that looks absolutely perfect to the photorealistic. But you need an appeal. You need something that will, you don't want to render just a photo, because they might just think it's a photo and be like, okay, that's a photo, cool. Where if you offer them something different, they will be drawn to it a bit more.
For sure. It's kind of like, why paint something that looks like a photograph when you could just take a photo of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that you have your own style?
I definitely have I wouldn't say it's my own style, but I do note that I have a consistency in my style. But essentially, it's just me attempting to render very realistic looks. So it kind of falls into what lots of people kind of do, but at a different, I guess, just at my learning level. Um, that said, I prefer stylized work over highly polished realism.
Yep. The goal changes as you learn as well. Like, when I was just starting out, my goal was to, do a drawing that looks like realism. And now I'm striving towards something a bit different. I do want to render quite realistically, but I do want something that draws the attention as well.
I was the same way. When I first started out, I just wanted it to look real. But as time progressed, I realized that things that look extremely real can be boring because they look real. Not always, but in many cases I find.
So in the video at the moment, I'm doing a lot of hand-drawn scales, and that seems to come back in play because so sometimes I use brushes to create textures and things, and other times I will hand render it, hand do it. What do you feel works best for you?
I'm a big fan of texture brushes. I use them a lot, actually. I like the look of scratchy brushes that really look scratchy and gritty a lot. So I use a lot of textured brushes, but I do think textures that are rendered out without texture brushes are often more appealing, but they take so much more time. So it's something to consider, that it just whether it's worth it to you, I think. Whether the time is worth it, and whether you're going to get, if a piece takes you 75 hours to complete because you rendered out every little bit, you might not get the same thing out of it as if you had used quicker ways to render and did 10 pieces,
Yeah, I suppose it comes down to what it's for. Like if it's a concept to show a client, or if it's a artwork to hang up on a wall or something like that.
For sure. For sure. And sometimes the clients don't want stuff that has really rendered textures in it.
Yeah.
I did a painting of a dog recently they just wanted it to look painterly.
Awesome. Yep. So that's pretty much done, because I finished the Bunnymeleon. So this will be released on my Facebook and DeviantArt and all that. Check out below the description, in the description, all the links, Dystoth's link, my link. Yeah, thanks for joining me today, Dystoth.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Awesome. And thank you for the people that watched and the people that will be watching this video later on. Cool. Goodbye.
Bye.